I like the idea of doing, before just asking permission. Like the fact that the Bitcoin Beach eventually inspired kind of the whole nation around itself. I think that that model clearly works well. Because one of the big challenging things about Bitcoin is that like it's actually one of the most acceptable monies worldwide. Meaning, for example, like if I bring an Egyptian pound with me outside of Egypt, there's almost nothing I can do with it. Whereas Bitcoin, you can actually take it to cities around the world and you can actually find ways to spend it or find someone to convert it for you much easier than you ironically can with most fiat currencies.
The global cryptocurrency market has experienced a notable surge over the past day, with its total value rising by 3.17% to approximately $2.14 trillion. Bitcoin continues to be the dominant force, commanding 56.3% of the market share. Stablecoins remain influential, accounting for $60 billion in transactions, which represents 92.43% of the 24-hour trading volume across the entire cryptocurrency market. Interestingly, Bitcoin saw a remarkable 47% increase in trading volume, reaching $29.4 billion in the last 24 hours and boosting its market valuation to $1.2 trillion. This surge in Bitcoin's trading volume reflects its growing prominence and volatility. LYN ALDEN recently explored these trends in a podcast with Ben Olden, discussing Bitcoin's expanding adoption not only among individuals but also within entire communities. Alden highlighted the importance of integrating financial tools with communication networks, emphasizing Bitcoin's increasing utility on a broader scale. While Alden does not foresee the establishment of a strategic reserve for Bitcoin in the immediate future, she is open to the idea, suggesting it could further enhance Bitcoin's ecosystem and drive wider acceptance. She also noted that Bitcoin is likely to gain traction among decision-makers in smaller companies or nations with the ability to act swiftly, potentially leading to significant price surges as adoption grows. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
I think, if you go to like a gold conference, it'll lean right as well. I mean, kind of appreciation of hard money is it just for whatever reason tends to be more on the right, maybe because if especially that small government type conservative, the idea that you have money that's not issued by a state is attractive to them, whereas that's generally less kind of foundational and for a lot of parts of the left. There are obviously some parts of the left that like that. I also think the environmental FUD over years probably played a role there. At least in the United States, the Democratic Party cares more about that topic, and so the fact that for many people they view it as like energy guzzling, inefficient. They've clung on to that narrative, and then people, when they say something publicly, it's hard to then pivot from it. If they had, previously believed all that research was real and was like, oh, look, it's really bad, it's spoiling the oceans, it's hard to walk that back. So I think it just takes time to get a little bit more embraced. One of the things I said on another podcast recently was that the fact that politicians are sitting there discussing a strategic reserve for Bitcoin is great because it means they're not doing other things about Bitcoin. They're not figuring out how to block it or how to go after Bitcoiners. Unfortunately, there still is privacy issues that some of their, like, not the politicians themselves, but like just deeper in, like their Department of Justice and stuff goes after people just for kind of seeking privacy. But on the political level, at least, the fact that they're all talking about that is great because it just gives more time for the ecosystem to keep building. So I don't really care too much if they end up doing a strategic reserve in the next few years. I would lean toward probably not that likely. But I'm glad that that's what they're focusing on. One thing we've kind of seen is that whether it's companies or countries, when there's a kind of a small number of decision makers that can just do something, in a normal publicly traded company, even the CEO is not like, they don't own a big share of the company. They're mostly caring about their their stock options and things like that. Whereas like in say MicroStrategy's case, it's the actual founder was still the CEO, and obviously owns a big percentage of the company, so can think 10 years ahead and can put significant changes in. That's why I've seen a lot of small businesses have adopted Bitcoin because only one or a few key deciders. And then when you go to using El Salvador as an example, or Kingdom of Bhutan or Switzerland, some of these smaller countries, whether they're impoverished or whether they're wealthy, the fact that they're just not super big, they kind of have a easier time getting through red tape and actually making a decision on something. And that seems to be a pattern that is playing out so far, which makes sense.
Why are you bullish?
So I'm bullish because of the launch of Fetti, the kind of the main launch. It's been in beta mode for a while. EcoDeath is an investor in it, but just literally as like I use it too. Like I'm excited for it because going back to my prior point around all these different communities, it really helps when they have tools that they can custody things locally instead of, say, put all their coins in like a big global exchange like Binance or something. Like, wherever possible, you want those coins local. And the fact that they have built-in privacy, I think, is a really big deal. The fact that they can add other things to it, like data storage or compute, kind of like a whole super app is how they put it. Basically, I think that it's really useful for scaling. And one of the things that also showed me early on, and Nostr reinforced it, is the importance of having communication with your wallet kind of like built in is super helpful. Because as you, one way of putting it is that all commerce is basically you're exchanging information and you're exchanging money. And so having both of those in the same app is really useful. So, for example, Fetti has internal chats that you can do, and you can attach money to your chats or request money in the chats.
In discussing Bitcoin's growing popularity among various communities, including aid organizations, LYN ALDEN highlighted its potential benefits in challenging situations. She underscored the value of products like Nostr, which integrate money and communication to empower communities. Alden cited the success of Bitcoin Beach as an example of effective community-driven adoption, which led an entire country to embrace Bitcoin. Alden emphasized that the real objective should be to focus on growth and education rather than seeking approval or getting caught up in chaos. She noted that the formation of dense hubs that facilitate Bitcoin spending and conversion has transformed the cryptocurrency's acceptance from individual use to broader community growth. Alden views this as a significant milestone for Bitcoin's adoption and utility. Let's return to the interview to watch more clips and gain further insights from LYN ALDEN.
One of the things I found interesting is that on Nostr, for example, amid all that communication, I think of sats in unit of account. So normally we focus on it as it's either store of value or medium of exchange. Unit of account's kind of the later thing because it's still volatile, so most people don't think heavily in terms of unit of account. But on Nostr, it's like you get a 1,000 sats on your like post or something, or you're giving out sats. I always just think of that number. I don't like, my mind doesn't even try to convert it to USD. It's just like that's the tipping environment on Nostr, and I think of it purely in Bitcoin terms. And so that kind of set of things is what I find really bullish. The fact that tools are coming out that empower these communities and that tie money and communication together in a really good way. One thing that I've kind of come to learn is that a lot of these aid organizations actually do use Bitcoin because when they're moving money around, often in challenging environments, basically environments that need aid, they often don't have the best infrastructure or there's other frictions. And so sometimes they do turn to Bitcoin, and they don't necessarily publicize that fact because some of their donors might have bad perceptions around Bitcoin. And they might think it's bad for the environment, or they might just whatever the FUD is. So the fact that they're just quietly using it for its utility is like a really big deal. And tools like this or other tools, anything that can make it easier for them to do what they're trying to do, I think that increases the odds that they'll actually use it. And the more like embedded it can be in all these different organizations and all these different countries, the better it is, the more resistant it is to attack, when it's kind of like entrenched in a lot of people's, daily lives and businesses and aid organizations. I like the idea of doing, before just asking permission, like the fact that the Bitcoin Beach eventually inspired kind of the whole nation around itself. I think that model clearly works well. And when a community shows like a tool is working for them, eventually it's possible to get the government on your side potentially. depends on the government in question. But if it's entrenched enough and it's providing value to the country, and it changes their incentive calculus about wanting to support it rather than oppose it. I think my final thoughts, like my takeaway from this, is that Bitcoin has kind of graduated to the community level. So, in the early days, it was like a bunch of individuals, and like you mentioned, a lot of times they didn't even meet other Bitcoiners. And now that like the network is 15 years in, it's at a bigger scale, there's starting to be more dense communities building around it, and it's still that same kind of bottom up kind of direction, except it's on a bigger level. And I guess the recommendation to go along with that is try some of those tools, whether it's Fetti, whether it's Nostr clients, whether it's Orange Pill app, anything that kind of has communication and money kind of built together, either online or in a local community or both. I think that's really where the level is now. I just think those tools are super useful. I think the whole vibe of that whole kind of every country is going to have multiple little hubs. Because one of the big challenging things about Bitcoin is that like it's actually one of the most acceptable monies worldwide. Meaning, for example, like if I bring an Egyptian pound with me outside of Egypt, there's almost nothing I can do with it. Whereas Bitcoin, you can actually take it to cities around the world, and you can actually find ways to spend it or find someone to convert it for you, much easier than you ironically can with most fiat currencies. But until somewhat recently, there hasn't been these dense areas. Like in Egypt, the Egyptian pound is super liquid in Egypt. You can just, it's very easy to obviously spend with it there. And Bitcoin has kind of lacked that. But as these little communities build up, and there's like more density in one spot, kind of where you can actually like reliably spend it. That's really powerful, and I think that it's the fact that that's kind of materializing is a big deal.
On Tuesday, Bitcoin and Ethereum experienced significant price increases, with Bitcoin rising nearly 4% to $60,800 and Ether climbing 1.7% to $2,664. This surge is largely attributed to speculation that the Federal Reserve may signal a potential rate cut later this week. Investors are eagerly anticipating the minutes from the Federal Reserve's July meeting and Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at the Jackson Hole Symposium, both of which could provide critical insights into U.S. rate policies and influence the direction of the cryptocurrency market. Other major cryptocurrencies, including BNB, Solana, XRP, Dogecoin, Tron, and Avalanche, also saw gains ranging from 2.7% to 7%, reflecting a broader upswing in the crypto market. The CoinDCX research team has identified support levels for Bitcoin at $58,500 and $56,000, suggesting that upcoming events could lead to significant market volatility. On the upside, resistance levels are projected at $63,500, $65,500, and $67,000. The team noted that Powell's speech on August 23 at the Jackson Hole Symposium could be a key catalyst for market fluctuations, as expectations rise that Fed policymakers might adopt a more dovish stance and ease interest rates in September, contributing to a weakening dollar. LYN ALDEN has provided insights into the political and ideological aspects of Bitcoin's growing adoption. She observed that Bitcoin conferences often lean right-wing due to a preference for hard money and minimal government interference. Alden also highlighted environmental concerns associated with Bitcoin, which have influenced perceptions, especially among Democrats in the U.S. Notably, she mentioned that discussions about a strategic reserve for Bitcoin suggest that policymakers are not looking to hinder its adoption. This growing acceptance and the potential introduction of new financial tools could significantly impact Bitcoin's future trajectory. What are your thoughts on Bitcoin's expanding influence? Share your views in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.